Right guys, here we go. It's time for the return of online league racing to the channel. This is round 1 of the season for the Australian Grand Prix of the brand new season of AOR, which of course stands for Apex Online Racing. And this season we are racing in top split F1 on PC, so I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really exciting season, 22 races ahead of us, and I'm hoping to have a strong year. You know, the target as always is to get maybe 1 or 2 race wins. I think that's probably what I'm looking for, but either way, we're going to run you guys through the entire field and see who we're going to be racing against this season. So first of all, we've got Philip Presnader, who you guys may know. If you know your league racing content, you know he's a really fast driver. He's actually, I believe, a Ferrari Esports driver, and you can see at the top of the screen his status is now retired because he took part in this race, and then after, unfortunately, Ferrari had to pull him from the championship, so he won't be competing anymore after today's episode. We've got Common, Failer, Andinator, Brownie, who I recognise from my days in F3 on F1 2018, Formula Kevin, Michael Tanitza, Calvin, Scrippy, FK Gaming. All 5 of those guys I was racing against last season in F2, and this year FK is my teammate in the other Alfa Romeo. We then got Ulas, who I raced with against recently in the evaluation race. He's very similar pace to me. Then we've got Kimiz and Soron, who I'm not too familiar with. Muller, who I raced with in F1 2018 and F3. He was really quick. And then we've got Warren, Paris, Alessio Di Capua, and Apex. So there we go, 19 drivers this season, now down to 18 after Presnader had to get retired from the league due to Ferrari's esports commitments. And with that said, we move into a brand new season. Here we go then, it's time for the first qualifying session of the season here at Australia, and it's actually raining, so a wet session ahead of us. We're going to be racing on the intermediate tyres, at least for now. Maybe things might change later on in the session, and we're going to see how it goes for the start of a new season. I can't lie, I am very under practice for this first event. I wasn't going into it confident. I didn't really put the work in, and you'll see here in the wet I was struggling massively for some grip, as this was my first time lap, and it was all about getting confidence. You know, I've done all my practice in the dry, so I've done no wet weather running, so I had to get used to that as well. And it's one of them ones where you put the inters on, you put a bit of fuel in the car and go for multiple laps and see if you can try and improve and find more pace. And to be fair, you saw a moment ago the mistake I made. My first lap is going to be good enough though for P4, so even though it was a scruffy one, we jumped straight to the top 4, which is pretty decent to be fair, and we keep on going, you know, for another lap and just keep circulating basically. And you can see here we're nearly a second up, purple sector 2, and this second lap is a lot better already. The track is constantly evolving and getting quicker, so you have to bear that in mind as well as we now leave the final corner. A bit of oversteer, but we are going to improve by about 1.2 seconds. We're currently P6 and we're going to move up to P2 just behind Paris. So things are looking very good so far as the track continues to dry in this session. Eventually we skip onto the final 2 minutes and my final runs on the inters, and this was my first lap, 1.6 seconds quicker. We're currently P14, so we have to improve. As we run up to the line we go P8, and now we're going to try and go for yet another lap. And to be fair, this lap was, or would have been, the one. We started off really well. We found a 10th with the first 2 corners alone, and we was 4 tenths up pretty much heading into the far chicane. We found a bit more time as well on the exit, and we was half a second up with the final sector to go. And this was actually my best lap of the weekend, but then I made a big mistake right in this heavy brake zone where we run it a bit too hot on the brakes. I got onto the grass and I lose my entire half a second advantage. So a bit of a shame. Luckily though, we are going to have just about enough time to cross the line and go for one more lap. We're currently P9, Florian FK, our teammate, is in P10, so I'm just building a bit of a gap to the car in front as we're now going to go for our final lap, and we're going to see if we can try and replicate what we just did and try and improve on our lap time. So let's go for a full lap of Albert Park. And here we go through the final corner, trying to get the power down, and we are going to improve by roughly around 2.5 tenths, and we do move up to P9. A shame because, you know, we could have gained a bit more. I think that previous lap was really, really good, and that could have been the one. You know, we only improved by 2.5 tenths when we was half a second up on the previous run. So if you factor in, let's say, 2.5 tenths off our time, that could have given us P6. So it is a shame we didn't maximize the session, but that's the way it goes, and mistakes get punished heavily in the top split of AOR in F1. So it is what it is. Paris, though, on pole with Common in second, Presneda in third ahead of his teammate Alessio in P4, and Jan Fehler P5 ahead of Formula Kevin there. And we have got a fifth row alongside Andalento. We out-qualify our teammate FK, who is in P11, and 16 drivers for today's event, and we are pretty much in the middle of the pack heading into the race. So there we go, that is it for qualifying. We're now going to move into Sunday and into the start of the race. Here we go then for the start of the race. We do have even more rain here today and full wet rain tyres available to us for the start of the race. And looking at conditions, it looks like it may dry up right to the very end, so it could be an interesting race, this one. In terms of fuel, I've underfueled by half a lap, so by 0.5, to try and be a bit more competitive at the start. And we're going to see how this goes as we move on to the formation lap here. Just trying to get some temperature into the tyres and see if we can feel confident. Visibility, very, very poor. You know, there's that element of league racing where a lot of people run with their graphics settings turned down, and it allows you to see better sometimes. In my case, I run maxed out settings, which can be a disadvantage because I can't see a damn thing due to the spray. So we're going to see how it goes. Hopefully we can have a good start. P9, hoping to gain a few places off the start, and fingers crossed we can achieve that. So let's get on with it then, and let's see if we can get a good launch off the line. We've got pretty good starts in career mode, so let's see if we can try and carry that over to online racing as the 5 red lights are on here for the start of a new AOR season, and it's a very quick 5 lights, and we are underway here, and looking like we've actually got off pretty lightly here off the line, getting the run on the racing point and the Renault. We tried to go down the inside, but there's not enough room. I don't quite want to risk it so early on, as the racing point of Calvin runs wide, and we're going to move up into P8 here. So a good start from us. We're now challenging the Renault here of Triton as we go down towards turn number 3. Around the outside we go, taking it very, very slowly here in this first part of the race as we get onto the curb a little bit. They're losing a bit of time under acceleration. Now on the inside of turn 4, we get boxed in by Jan Fehler in the McLaren, and now Calvin coming back at us here down the inside of the right-hander, and I've just got to hold on and try and do my best as we lose Alessio in the Ferrari, who qualified in P4, so we're now going to get an extra place because of that. We're still side by side here with Calvin in the racing point. It's very, very close, but we have to back off and let him have the place because we just couldn't get the grip. We are going to try and go back down the inside here, but not quite enough momentum, and we have to back off and hang on for now to 8th place as we've got FK Florian Napik behind us. And we kind of were speaking as well in the background. You might hear Florian speaking about a strategy over the whole race, and we want to try and hold position, not be too aggressive with each other in this first part of the race as we make our way through the fast chicane for the first time this race, or should I say the inverted commas fast chicane, because there's not much speed being carried at the moment in these conditions. And we're now pretty settled, we're settling in behind Calvin and Jan Fehler, and of course Jan Fehler, another driver who I believe was in the F1 Esports Pro draft. So some really quick drivers in this split, and put myself against some of the best drivers in the game. But lap one draws to a close, and overall we didn't gain any places, we didn't lose any. We only gained a place due to Alessio disconnected from the session, but had that not been the case, we'd still be in P9. So okay so far. I hope to have gained a few places. I think in the future I'm going to try and be a little bit more aggressive with my starts because I was a bit too safe, I think, and that cost me a bit of time as we pick up a warning there for track limits on lap 2 already. And we now cut onto the end of that lap, and Calvin here again very out of shape through the fast chicane. I can't see a damn thing, but we are going to get very close here and get a bit of a run on him as we make our way down towards turn 13, but not quite close enough to really challenge the racing point driver, and we have to hang back for now. But all over the back of him, he gets loose again on the exit there of the right-hander, and we're just putting some big pressure on here. Another snap for him, but then into the hairpin, he gets on the brakes very early, kind of catches me out a little bit, but that gives him a nice exit out of there, and overall I wasn't able to challenge him as we now move on to the end of the next lap, lap number 3. And this one really caught me out. Calvin very late on the brakes there. We almost run to the back of him and smash our front wing into his left rear. Luckily, we avoid major contact and keep it clean. And eventually now on lap 5, I'm looking at my options. I'm looking at the track conditions. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? It might be worth going for the inters here, and that's exactly what I'm going to go for. So we're going to box in, take a bit of a gamble. There's only one car, I believe, in the pit lane ahead of us, and that's common in the McLaren. So we're going to box for the inters and take a chance. I was speaking to FK about this, and I think we both agreed that it might be worth a risk. So I'm going to box first as our first priority, and then FK will hopefully follow us in afterwards. So let's see if we can get the desired effect, and fingers crossed, maybe even undercut Calvin and even Jan Fehler in the McLaren, who are ahead of us. So here we go, back up to speed on the inters as we rejoin into a bit of traffic here, and we rejoin just behind Ulas in the Renault, and he's going to be kind of our reference point this lap as to where we are and see what these inters are like, and just trying to get into the zone. And then once we leave the pit lane, trying to get the tyres up to temperature. And you can see now we're going to lap Alessio here, of course, disconnected earlier on, and the gap was about the same, although the second half of the lap the inters definitely started to pick up pace. And you see there Ulas actually pits, so that's going to give us P12, and there are a bunch of other cars in the pit lane as well, so we are going to gain a few more places, and let's see where we go. We've got FK there leaving the pit exit as well, and we rejoin back in 8th place, so back where we were, if you will, as we run a bit wide through turn 1 again there, and we've got Triton up ahead, and we're going to see if we can try and close the gap a little bit to the Renault driver. So here we are, end of lap 7 now, moving further on in this race, and we've got Calvin in the pit lane. So this is going to be a key point in the race as we are on for a personal best. We're going to see if we can get ahead. Yes, we do, and we're out ahead of the Racing Point driver, and we're going to be behind Jan Fehler in the McLaren. So a very good undercut, and that's worked out well for us on the inters. The only issue now is we're going to have 2 extra laps of tyre wear compared to everybody else, but the undercut works well for us, and the pit stop was definitely worth it. And you can see now on lap 8, we're actually hanging on to Fehler quite nicely here. We do pick up another warning there for track limits, and we're now on 2 warnings, so 1 more, and we're going to have a penalty coming our way. So hopefully we can try and avoid it, but unfortunately we're not going to. And you see here we cut the second part of the chicane, and that's on me. Like I said, I was under practice, I'm going to be honest, especially in the wet conditions, and I paid the price for it. We were setting some personal best though, the pace was good, and eventually though Jan Fehler, you can see the gap up to 1.2 seconds, and he was starting to pull away. Meanwhile Calvin was starting to close in on us, and he was 8 tenths behind. And it was at this point where the race was starting to settle down a bit now in the inters, and we were trying to find a bit of a rhythm really, and that was the aim, try and stay consistent and, you know, run some good pace. And at this point now Calvin was closer to us than we were to Jan Fehler as we moved onto that lap. And another corner cut, unfortunately, through the far chicane. That one was a bit of an Achilles heel for me. I was struggling through there quite a lot. Eventually though we move on to the start of lap 13, we set a new personal best, and we just started to open up a gap to Calvin behind now, 1.2, 1.3 seconds give or take, and as we get another warning again there through turn 1, and I'm really driving quite messily here today in this race as we get another personal best on lap 16. And like I said, it was all about consistency, trying to find a bit of a rhythm really, and there wasn't much going on at this point of the race. You know, everyone was very similar pace, and eventually then on lap now 17 we set yet another personal best. The track started to dry out quite quickly now, and we're closing in on Jan Fehler, so we got the gap back within a second. Meanwhile Calvin behind is also starting to close up a little bit, and we're losing some rear tyres here, and this was the key point in the race. So there was a bit of a miscommunication between myself and my teammate FK, and it hurt us quite badly. So at this point I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and go for the dry tyres. I fancy risking it. The track was drying quickly, and we get the radio message right at the very last second as we're going to go around the final corner. Jeff said to box, and that's normally the telltale sign to go for the soft tyres, or the dry tyres in my case, and I was going to go for the softs, but right at the last second FK mentions to me it's still raining, and that kind of made me think twice. And with the panic, I selected inters again as a mistake. I just panicked basically, and I went for the inters, which was a big mistake, and it backfired pretty much instantly, even though the rain is still coming down. As we make our way down towards turn 1, DRS is enabled, and that completely ruined our strategy. And you know, our battle for P5, P6 was down the drain, because now we've got a box again for the dry tyres. And you can see here eventually a few corners later, Calvin getting to work on those soft tyres, and we've also got Andy behind in the Mercedes, and they were much quicker than me, simple as that. I was quite surprised actually on this section right here. Andy actually went for a move, which was kind of unexpected. I thought he would have waited until after the fast chicane, but fair enough. We couldn't respond, you know, these guys were too quick, and it was all about trying to get the car back to the pits and put on a set of soft tyres, which was what I was going to do originally, because it's such a shame, you know, had we done the original strategy and boxed for the softs, we would have been in such a good position because Jan Fehler in front of us in the McLaren was on medium tyres, and Triton went for the exact same thing as well. So we would have had a big tyre advantage on those softs, and we could have potentially been in P5. So we really messed it up, and it's going to hurt our race massively here today. Currently P11. As we leave the pit exit, we're going to see where we're going to rejoin exactly as we get back up to speed. Looks like it's going to be P11, so just outside the points. We do have, of course, some time penalties to our name, so
true. I don't know.
We're going to have to deal with the consequences of that later on. But eventually we made our way onto the softs. The rain's still coming down a little bit. But we now get a yellow flag here a few corners later. And it's actually Michael Tonidza in the Red Bull who's had a spin and a crash. And he's on medium, struggling for the grip on those tyres. And we're going to get ahead of him and move past and back into the top 10. So we're in the points once again, which is something at least, after doing an extra pit stop for no reason whatsoever. And pretty much at this point, we was just trying to see how fast we could go. I get another penalty, unfortunately, pushing a bit too much and getting a purple sector 2 in the process. So we're running at an okay pace, but paying the price with the penalty at the same time. And then suddenly, lap 23, a safety car is deployed. Ulas crashes out of the race, and that triggers a safety car. And we've boxed, of course, for soft tyres not too long ago. And this lap, only Andy, which surprised me, would actually pit. Jan Fehler also wanted to get into those soft tyres, so again we could have been P4, P5 in that range had we gone for the softs originally. Either way, we go back to the safety car restart, and of course I stayed out on these tyres. We've got Andy behind on the fresh soft tyres, and he had much more grip than me, simple as that. Also, I messed up with my tyre warm-up. My tyres were not in the right window, so Andy was a lot quicker than me here, and he went for a bit of a surprising move to turn 1. He was never really close enough, but I had to leave some space, otherwise I would have taken him out. Not the kind of move I would have liked to see from someone, but then eventually he got the run and he goes around the outside of turn number 3. Bit of contact there as well in the process. I'm trying to give him a bit of a squeeze. He was lagging a lot as well, which didn't help. But eventually Andy gets through and he's up into P9. So we are relegated back down to 10th place. We've got Felix Luneberg behind us, Brownie in P11. He's on a fresh set of soft tyres as well, as we get another warning for track limits. But eventually though, things kind of stabilised, and as we move on to lap 28, those on the fresh soft tyres starting to lose their grip a little bit. And you can see here now Jan Fehler all over the back of Warren. He's going to make a move here actually. Warren seemingly out of energy because his light is flashing, so he's trying to somehow scramble for some engine power. And this gave us an opportunity here with DRS and overtake mode to make a move, and in hindsight I really wish I'd been more aggressive here. We tried to go around the outside, but I just didn't try hard enough. I could have got a lot tighter and made it work. Warren is able to hold on, and I thought about having a look into the penultimate corner, but again, didn't quite commit to it. He does lock up. We are going to get a pretty decent exit out of here, but again, I was being too safe. We do get the DRS and also the overtake mode here on the pit straight, and I should have just kept the overtake mode enabled because we could have got a run into turn 1, but I decided to back off, expecting to get the run down to turn 3, but I made a big mistake there, getting a lot of oversteer, and that's going to suddenly put Felix Luneberg on the back of us here, heading down towards turn 3. Luckily we're able to hold on, but just in general, a bit of a scruffy race, I've got to be honest. And we then eventually move on to the final few corners, and just to top it off, now going through this corner here, we run a bit wide and pick up yet another time penalty. So overall, not a good race. Scruffy, simple as that. It's going to be Paris who wins for Haas, but then eventually Common wins it due to no penalties, and we cross the line, and we finish in P10, even with those 9 seconds worth of time penalties. So in the end, looking at the race results, and once everything kind of settled down, a lot happened in that race, but eventually it was Common who won the race for McLaren. He finished 3rd on track, but he won it due to no penalties. Paris, Presnader, Kevin, 2nd, 3rd and 4th, all of them with 3-second time penalties. Kimi is P5, Warren P6, Brownie is 7th ahead of Calvin and Dinator, and we finish in P10. So looking at it, reflecting on it, Kimi is, of course, who was Triton in the Renault. He was on medium tyres, so we could have finished P5 today. That's where we could have been. I really believe that. We threw away a 5th place finish, which is a shame because considering how scruffy that race was, we missed out big time. To be fair, we would have lost P5 due to the penalties anyway, but still on track, it would have been nice to finish there. We then look further down there, we've got to Fehler in P11 in the McLaren due to time penalties, FKE P12 in the end, 20 to 13th, Ulas DNFing along with Scrippy and Alessio Di Capua. So overall, there are your final race results, guys. Of course, I'm not going to show you the driver standings for the constructors just yet. It's too early. It's only been one race, so in due course, we'll show you guys those standings moving forward. But that is it for the race here today, guys, for round 1 at Australia. And like I said, not my best race. I was under practice. I didn't have a lot of time to practice. That's the reason why. So hopefully for the next one in Bahrain, we'll be a lot more prepared. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop me a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel for more league racing content on the channel, and also check out the 2 videos on screen right now. But that is it from me here today, and I'll see you all next time for round 2 in Bahrain. But until then, take care, and it's goodbye from me.